Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to again be joined by my friend and business partner, Mr. Michael Vincent. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing great, man. I'm all hyped up. I went for a run, took a shower, and got all cleaned up. I even used deodorant for you folks today. So if you smell something, it ain't me.
It's stench free.
It's time stench free. Exactly. Very good. Very good. Bravo.
That's awesome. You got that blood pumping. That's always good to do, man. Always.
Yeah. Well, if you knew me, you'd be scared because that means I'm going to be argumentative and all kinds of stuff. So it could be interesting today. But,
Well, today the big topics are going to be freight growth trends and EPA SmartWay. But, to begin, I saw this story.
Yeah.
And it's about shipping invasive hippos from Colombia to India and Mexico. And, this obviously there's all kinds of freight we can talk about here, right? But I read this article. I want to do a couple of quotes from the article. So Colombia is proposing transferring at least 70 hippopotamuses, say that 3 times fast, that live near Pablo Escobar's former ranch, descendants of 4 imported from Africa illegally by the late drug lord in the 1980s, and taking them to India and Mexico as part of a plan to control their population.
Well, I don't understand. Is Mexico in need of hippos?
I wonder about that too. I guess they.
I don't think hippos are not native to Mexico, are they?
I've never seen a hippo in Mexico. Have you?
No, but that doesn't mean they're. But I never. In India, I didn't know India was like a big hippo place either. I thought, why aren't they going back to Africa? Aren't they like African?
Yeah, it says African hippos.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. And isn't it? I always thought it was hippopotami.
Oh, yes. According to the AP, it's hippopotamuses.
I'm sure it's hippopotamuses, but I like to say hippopotami or I think it's a hypotamus. Or is that like a quadrangle or something? I don't know.
I think that's a geometrical term.
Yeah, I can guarantee you, Peter's going to be mad when they do an anal cavity search on these things coming out of Colombia.
Oh, man. Yeah. Who wants that job?
Not me.
Not me.
Not me.
So apparently these hippos are territorial and they weigh up to 3 tons and they spread far beyond the Hacienda Napoles ranch. So I can't help but think, how are you going to get these hippos onto maritime vessels? Is it like Noah's Ark? You lead them on one by one, or how is this going to work on, and how do you get them out of the water?
Well, okay. So, I could give you all wrong answers if you like.
Might as well.
I think you fly them on, much like you do, like when they harvest Christmas trees, they do it with a helicopter. So I would suggest that you use a helicopter or, some sort of greased slide, industrial slide. Just slide them on there. No, they're going to use cattle carriers, right? They would move them with a cattle. Aren't there? There's got to be cattle carriers moving from south. Isn't Argentina a huge cattle raising place? Isn't it?
Well, Colombia to Mexico in particular is okay, but Colombia to India, you got to have to use air freight or maritime to get from there to there, right?
Yeah. Well, there's cattle, but there's cattle maritime, right? So.
Oh yes, cattle maritime carriers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They'll do that. I just don't understand why India is going, hey, I'll take 30 of those.
Right. Well, maybe it's a tourist attraction.
Maybe they're going to zoos. They're dangerous, right? They're like only like second to vending machines for killing people, right?
Oh yeah. They are very dangerous. So I was thinking about that. Like, do you put them on a leash? How do you get them out of the water? Do they like carrots? Do they like cabbage? How do you?
Yeah,
right. And I don't think you can put them on a leash because they weigh 3 tons. So I just don't know. Like, how do you put them on a carrier? How do you get them on the carrier? Are you suggesting
that we start breeding micro hippopotamus as like household pets?
That would be an interesting trend. That would be good. Yeah. I think we got a business idea right there.
My wife wanted micro pigs, and I told Donnie Gilbert of Freightwaves, who's a friend of mine, hey, you want to see a picture of my micro pig, my 25-pound pig? 600 pounds.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
That's not a micro pig, is it?
No, I mean it's a severe roll of the dice when you get a micro pig, and I learned it too. I got 2 micro pigs, and by the time they were 50 pounds each, I found somebody to buy them from me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Anyway, what is going on? This is we're not we haven't. I mean, there's probably no smart way to move hippos from Colombia. At least you and I aren't coming up with one, right?
Not the ones we've proposed today, except for I like your cattle car maritime or shipping method. I think that's probably got to be involved in there somewhere.
I think so. It would be more fun if they were smuggling them, because then we could do a story about how they brought them out there in a little pontoon type of thing, and they were using a crane in the middle of the night to put them onto the mares. Remember when those stories were breaking about the drugs and stuff coming out off the coast there?
Oh yeah, right.
Loading
they get
vessels
extremely inventive on what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get crazy. They get crazy for sure. They sure. Maybe they're just moving them over to Mexico. Mexico is going to start like a CNG farm, right? A methane farm collected for fueling trucks.
Could be. There's a lot of methane to be had there, I would think.
I would think that a 3,000 pound hippo produces a fair amount of methane.
Right. I would agree.
You could strap it to the back of your 18 wheeler and use it as a range extender.
No, that could be another show. We could do methane measurement of the hippo farm.
There you go. I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh man, we could go so many different ways with this, but I want to talk about, we should probably move on to our main story, main topics, which is the growth of freight. And EPA SmartWay has been going for 30 years now. That's hard to believe. Where does the time go?
Wow. Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, that's 30 years ago was like, let's see, the 1980s was like 10 years ago, right? So
it seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it
seems like it.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy. I mean, I've been in, so I'm older than SmartWay as far as my tenure in the business. So
that's right. That's right. So you were just a young lad when this first got underway.
I was probably a very young terminal manager at Roadway Express.
Yep. First job out. That was your first like real freight job, right? Roadway.
Yeah. Pounding the docks at the break bulk when they used to call them break bulks on Hagman Road in Toledo, Ohio. Yes, sir.
There's a good show about, you ever see Joey and Melissa, that show? Toledo, Ohio? Yeah. Oh, well. So yeah, SmartWay's been around for 30 years, 30 years of climate partnership. And you and I love to help companies improve fuel economy, reduce emissions, and eliminate plastics waste with monetary gains, actually, for companies and individuals in the process. And we're absolutely to do just that. So I'm going to quote something from the EPA SmartWay website.
All right, sir.
They say global trade has a net positive effect on the world economy. However, associated freight transportation produces adverse impacts on the environment and public health. U.S. freight activity continues to expand significantly since the Great Recession. The U.S. transportation system moves a daily average of over 51 million tons of freight, or about 57 tons of freight per capita. Experts project that by 2050, global freight transport emissions will surpass those from passenger vehicles. There's a lot of carbon.
It's a lot. I mean, it's huge, and it's a lot of carbon, and it's growing. In spite of, reductions, because I mean, the number of engines burning and the time that they're burning is exceeding the reduction of emissions that the technology of those engines has been able to produce.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did. Absolutely. Okay. I followed that.
It kind of felt like really Wonka there.
They've done all these things with engines to reduce the amount of emissions coming off the tailpipes and also maritime vessels. They've installed these massive scrubbers for the air.
Yeah, well, we could get into the scrubbers. I mean, keep it out of the air and dump it in the ocean.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of people in maritime that have a real problem with that, with let's take this dirty air and push it into the water. That doesn't seem like a good option.
Look, we've cleaned it up. Yeah, okay. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know,
whatever. But yeah, no, so it's crazy that it's going there, and you know, SmartWay and getting the SmartWay stamp of approval, right? It's those little leaves and everything, getting those on there was a great rite of passage. You don't see people really tout that as much as they used to now.
Right.
Anne Ranke does, right? Because it is really interesting that the biggest impact of an intermediary is actually, you know, scope 3. So, and SmartWay is even involved with pushing that, recognizing the fact that even the intermediaries, et cetera, can utilize and impact those GHG emissions and reductions through their expertise and their technologies for more efficient shipping, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I hear, you know, especially coming out of Europe, they're going to be rating maritime vessels, A, B, C, D, E, on how dirty or clean they're burning. Right.
Yeah, no, that's right. And if you get like a bad grade, you have to write a paper on how you're going to do better and set standards, right? Something like, I mean, all kidding aside, that's kind of the program, right?
Mrs. Abernathy is going to grade your ship and tell you how you did and put red marks or not red marks on your ship report. Now it's they're going to be measuring air, you know, air quality. And apparently I'm seeing and hearing that Europe is, you know, talking about sanctions on vessels that are dirty, basically, you know.
Well, yeah, that's part of it too, right? I saw that. I did a report. I didn't do a report. I wrote a blog about that, right? There's a whole step process that goes through it. You've got to maintain like a B+ average or something like that on their, once you fall like two or three time periods, I forget what they were, like in a D status, then you have to submit a new plan and it's got to be approved, and then you're measured against that, and then you could be sanctioned if you don't meet that. And yeah, it's interesting. It's a good move to force them to start doing it. And I unfortunately, it's probably only the first step before there's like, you know, some sort of taxation to force it to happen.
Yeah, that seems like it's coming. And if you're a large company that has ESG plans and goals and they're out there publicly with it, I don't think you can really go and hire a bunch of D-rated vessels to haul your freight across the world, right? If you're out there publicly with, hey, we're doing this, that, and the other thing, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You really can't. And with the, you know, obviously the proliferation of data, it just keeps marching on. And the transparency and collaborative use of that data is also growing, and it's a good thing. I think you and I agree on that's a good thing. But it causes you need to take pause and think, okay, what are my strategies and where do I really need to focus? Because the not the dirty little secrets, but these things are going to be public knowledge and going to be used to grade me as a business.
Mm-hmm. Right.
More and more so.
Right.
Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year or the year after, but you know, companies are definitely under pressure to improve their emissions, improve their carbon footprint, and their overall ESG scores, right? The whole ESG, environment, social, and government, the whole way across it. And so they have to use and then prove that they're using and their vendors are green as well, right?
Absolutely. You know,
and so they're going to know what kind of fuel you're using. They're going to know what kind of engine you're using. They're going to know if you're shipping on a B or C or D vessel or an A, B, C, or D carrier or whatever it happens to be, right?
Yes, I see that coming. Absolutely. Yep.
So, you know, we're all trying to prepare for this type of stuff, right? I'm trying to help people prepare for it in two ways. I'll give you one hint. I'm trying to prepare them primarily through utilization of plastics, right? And post-consumer and post-industry plastics regrind, if you will, bringing it out of the environment. And if you don't think it affects trucks, you're crazy. Most trucks and those trailers, they're huge amounts of resins that make those truck bodies and all those parts and all those hoses and the sides of the floppy trailers. Yeah, that's all plastic.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. Those wind flaps.
Yeah,
I think they're a high concentration of flat plastic there, right?
Darn right they are. Does your trailer manufacturer have a stamp of approval on the side of it?
Right. Was that wind flap from virgin plastic or was that recycled plastic? Because
Exactly.
if you're trying to help the environment, let's go and get rid of the virgin plastic as much as we can. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is, dude. That's what it is. And then the other part there is fuel, right? You got to look at the fuel. And then part of it is running efficiently. But then there's tons of technology, and sitting around waiting for new technology and saying, well, that's not going to cut the mustard. That's not going to get you where you're going to be, right?
Right. Yep. And the cool thing for me and you is we can help companies, people make more money and reduce fuel, reduce emissions, and reduce plastics waste. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. So Andy, here's the thing. I get asked, and I always have to go look it up. So off the truth, when you use like CyberFuels, right? You mix it. You can mix it with gasoline and diesel, right?
Yes.
I mean, not and, but either or.
Either or, right. Right, yes. Don't put gasoline and diesel together. That's a bad mix.
This is where grammar gets important, right?
Right.
So what can you expect? What can you expect as far as your fuel consumption reduction or cost reduction as a percent? Yeah, what's a realistic expectation?
Yeah, it's anywhere from 26 to 95 cents per gallon net savings after the cost. So save yourself 26 to 95 cents per gallon of fuel that you burn. That's on gasoline or diesel.
And is that because of the type of engines that are in there and the type of usage of the vehicle as well? Because some uses of vehicles drive the engine harder and therefore it burns more fuel just naturally, right?
Right.
That's why the big range?
Yeah, the range is 8% to 31% fuel economy improvement based on the application, right? If you're in stop and go traffic all day long on a little box truck, it's tough. But if you're over the road hauling 40,000 pounds and your engine's running all day long and you've got 2% idle time, there's a big range based on the application of the engine, but anywhere from 8 to 31%.
Yeah. And then, but then at the same time, the emissions too. It's reducing the emissions is, and it's above and beyond just the reduction in the fuel, right?
That's right. Yeah, independent lab tested 22% reduction on emissions coming off the engine. So before it gets to the DPF and the DEF or a scrubber, it's at combustion reducing the emissions by 22% proven.
That's at combustion.
At combustion.
So that doesn't take into account that you're using 30% less. That's the combustion factor, right? That's
right. Just because it's burning the fuel more completely. Yeah.
Well, I can see some bonehead out there like me going, well, if you reduce the consumption of fuel by 31%, but your emissions are only down 22%, that means that it's 9% worse.
No, two different things. Yeah.
No.
Two different fuel economy improvement, but the actual fuel burns more completely and emits less. So right at combustion, you're getting a lab proven 22% reduction in emissions.
That's important. That is very, very important.
Which is also, it leads into less DPF filter issues, less downtime, less DEF fluid, less need for scrubbers on vessels, less this, less that after combustion, right? All these things that have been done typically are after combustion, right? Put a scrubber on that, put a DPF on that, put more DEF in there, different things. And typically, of course, the engines cost more. The higher tier you go, they're more expensive because of all the other things that have been added to those engines, basically. But yeah, we're getting it right there at combustion.
Yeah. And so, and because the two are combined, right? Because I can also see people going, well, okay, is the energy density less because of the CyberFuels in there? And the answer has got to be an emphatic no, because you're using less fuel. So if the energy density were less or reduced it in order to get the emissions down, you would actually consume more liquid by volume, right?
Yeah, what it really does on a technical level, it improves the thermal efficiency burn of the fuel. Whether it's gasoline, it's a diesel, it's a maritime residual fuel, it's improving the thermal efficiency burn of the fuel. So you're
you're burning more of the diesel molecule.
Yeah, it's just getting more from that gallon of fuel.
It's improving the densification or the energy density.
Yeah.
Or utilizing all of it or more of it.
More of it. Exactly. Gotcha. And they took another study we've done looking at cetane on a diesel. Cetane So SGS Lab did a test taking a 44.0 cetane rating fuel, add dynamo to it from CyberFuels. It brought it up to 52.9, which was a 20.2% increase in the cetane rating of the fuel, which is basically creating a super diesel. So you're taking the base fuel and just making the base fuel better, you know, and then it burns more effectively. And the thing also, dynamo cleans out the engine, adds lubricity. There's 6 different things it does. I don't want to get into all of that, but it does all these things combined. And that's why we're getting an average of about 20% fuel economy improvement. It's because of all of it combined, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, dude. I love it, dude. Next time we're going to have to talk about the hog issue, the hogs invading us from the north.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I've seen that story. What's that about?
Oh yeah. No, there's feral hogs coming across the border from Canada invading us. And, you know, according to what we just read today, it's not going to be too far off where we're going to get a squeeze effect here with the hippos coming in from Mexico after
yes. It's going to be the pigs versus the hippos at some point, right?
It is. It
right?
is.
It's going to be a slugfest between the pigs, the massive pigs and the hippos. Going to have to fight it out for some land.
That's exactly right. I love it.
Oh man. All right. Well, I think we've done enough damage for one day. So
all right.
Thanks again for coming on, Michael. And, you know, thanks again for what you're doing with the plastics and with CyberFuels. And
amen.
And we'll have more episodes to come on ESG topics, sustainability on the Sustainiacs podcast. So thanks again for coming on, Michael.
You got it, man. Everybody keep watching because, you know, one of these might actually be informative and entertaining. You never know.
We're hoping.
We're hoping. We're going to get there, my friends.
That's right. Somebody's got to get something out of that.
Hey.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for joining, everybody. We will see you again soon. As Michael would say, peace and love.
Peace and love, everybody.